Hey there, it's Robin, and you're listening to Healthy Habits for a Healthier Home. I'm here to help you create a healthier life, one simple shift at a time. If you're a mama ready to ditch toxins, clean up your family's nutrition, and build daily habits that support your well-being, you're definitely in the right place. Each episode is packed not only with education, but practical tips and tools to help you transform your health and your home without that feeling of overwhelm. So let's take this journey together to create a thriving, low-tox home for you and your family. If you're ready, say, I am ready. Now let's get into this episode. Hey y'all, welcome back. I am super excited today to be introducing you to Jennifer Roth. I actually met her because I love her tea. She owns a tea company, but she does more than just that. She's a clarity coach. She has a podcast. So I'm super excited for you guys to meet her. I know today we're going to walk away with several 1% shifts that y'all can try on and see what works for you. And maybe they will become some of your non-negotiables. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to dive into more of what you're doing, and so grateful for what you're doing and how you're serving your community and the world. We need more and more of this. So thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love hearing people's stories. So how did you get started? Because your tea, again, that's how I first met you. And I always look for clean, loose tea, which is not an easy feat. So what started you down that path of creating teas?
Yeah, I was thinking about that in getting ready for this. So many different bits and pieces. My health journey started when I was probably around 7 or 8, having a heck of a lot more awareness of what I was putting in my body, how our bodies react to things. My grandpa had gone in for, I believe, his first open heart surgery. He had 3, was always having a replacement of some sort or something done. And so I started playing the role of nurse when I was really young, thought that was fun to like bring him things and help him do his homework that he needed for PT. And that really influenced my life. As I was journeying through, I desired to become an acupuncturist. I found a school in the Pacific Northwest that I absolutely fell in love with, called Bastyr University. It is in the middle of a national forest. And when I got there, I just knew I needed to be there. My soul and spirit was grounded and really craving a reset at that point. And so I ended up choosing the herbal science program and going to school for herbal sciences. So we studied plants from seed all the way through germination and propagation. We went to farms all the time that were harvesting different plants and teaching us about the root versus the stem versus the leaves. And one of the most basic things we did in school was make tea with each and every single one. So it's called a water infusion. So you take the plant, put it in the water, let it soak, just like you would a tea bag. And then we would taste the different aspects of the plant. And I thought, gosh, this is fine and fun, but it wasn't the most exciting part of class. It wasn't making a percolation, which is the alcohol extract, or a glycerin or that sort of thing. So as I journeyed, came to Colorado to complete my clinical program and kind of mix together the science world and the speaking to individuals and the clinical aspect of meeting with individuals on a daily basis and not having all of the science language that I was immersed in for a period of time. And what I found working in the clinic that I was working in, one, we were focused in women's health. So that was a really beautiful experience. Anything from beginning of menstruation or before, all the way through end of menstruation into our later years of life. I ended up working with women mostly to help them through their fertility journey, becoming pregnant, and then through postpartum. And as I was doing that, I was noticing that the women we were doing Mayan abdominal and uterine massage. So I added that certification. And as I was going along. And so we were mainly helping them with that, but then we also were helping them with gentle yet nourishing formulas, especially teas that they could take home and make. And they were loose leaf teas. And I thought, takes a bit of work, right? It's
Yeah.
something that you do on the fly. And I mean, it totally become a part of our lifestyle and our journey. But the women who were pausing, who were taking a moment, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to make that cup of tea for themselves were more likely to become pregnant. And that was a really neat opportunity for me because I saw not only in the marketplace that there were only at that moment that I was aware of tea bags, which we would highly recommend for women too, but it was more of take 3 or 4 of those tea bags in order to get the nutrient content that we would have in 1 tablespoon of a loose leaf cup of tea.
That's
Uh,
interesting.
so it and the make of it, we could talk about processing for days, is great and just different. So as I began to learn about that process, observe those women and their results, I really had this desire to reach more women. I wanted to reach women that weren't just in Denver and that I wasn't spending one-on-one time with for an hour to an hour and a half, and gave it a try to try loose leaf teas out in the marketplace for fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum. So that's where it started. All the teas are great for anyone at any point in their journey. We have immune boosting teas, lighthearted.
That's what I've used. And I did notice you had all the other teas, but I was really looking for an immune boosting tea that was loose leaf because, well, for different reasons. I didn't know that you'd have to use a couple of tea bags, but I'm just more so trying to get away from the tea bags because they're plastic and they're this and they're made of junk. And, I'm more of the ingredient, like, why are we using, and I get the convenience, right? Because we're just a convenience world. And, so I've literally been scouring, looking for different companies that have loose leaf teas. And I've tried quite a few, but your immune one works, number one. And I like the way it tastes. And so again, if you're out there and you're trying to figure out teas, or even maybe you've never even tried tea, I would definitely start with your brand, because I feel like, well, obviously just talking to you, you know a lot about tea. You didn't just start tea just because you liked tea. So I think your journey's so cool, because when I talk to people on the podcast, what I love is, you start here, everybody's journey, and then you never end up anywhere close to where you started. And I find that fascinating. I find that to be true for most people, and I love to hear kind of how it meanders. I appreciate, like, as a little kid, your grandpa going through something that was not fun in a medical condition, right? Probably because of health and wellness reasons, but then you getting curious, right? And I think, again, when we're little, we're curious. When we're little, we think things are fun, even though, like, having heart surgery is not fun. But, like, you coming and you bringing those exercises to him and you helping, you did more for him than you probably even knew, right? And so I think as adults, we forget to be curious. We forget to, like, let the mind wander. And it's because we have so many tasks as women and moms and things like that, that we forget to pause, right? And making that cup of tea, giving that yourself that 5 minutes, and then drinking that tea, that's self-care. And that's really what it boils down to. So if you're trying to get pregnant and you're high stress, high everything, just allowing your body to calm down and come back into that parasympathetic is probably what helps to result in them getting pregnant.
Absolutely.
So
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. And then how did you decide to go for getting certified in clarity?
Yeah, it started about the same time. The teas started before for sure. Um, I was working at the time doing perioperative massage therapy as well. So helping women pre and post surgery with their lymph system to prime them for whether it be reconstructive surgery or breast cancer, that sort of thing. And then observing the surgery so we knew what was being worked on, how they were maneuvered throughout the surgery, and then support them after. And while I was there, our employers brought us to a workshop called Clarity. And I knew that I was enjoying and appreciating what I was doing, but I couldn't see myself doing it for the next 30 years. And so I was continuously curious, wondering what was next, wondering how to bring the T's forward, wondering it was kind of a start, stop, start, stop. I had a very exciting vision of helping this company franchise and become a perioperative clinic throughout the United States. There was an opportunity to work with and or purchase the women's clinic that I had been working for previous to that. So I was at a choice point for sure of which direction do I want to go? I've got this fork in the road and I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I want to
Um,
stop just one second because first of all, I've never heard of the clinic work that you were doing. First of all, that is freaking amazing. Um, I wish that was all over the place because I remember having a surgery after my second daughter was born, and they said, you know, you should probably go get some type of massage. They said cranial, sacral, something to help. And that was, they didn't offer it there, but they were like, this is what the nurse told me. She's like, you should go get something like that. And I had never heard of it. And I remember going and I wasn't scared or anything, but then she was like, well, when we release all of this stuff, lots of side effects could happen, you know? And then I was like, what in the world? But I would never have known that if the nurse didn't say anything. So the fact that you guys are working, or you were, maybe we still are, I don't know, working for a center that actually works with an operating center to give these people not just the surgery, but what they need before and after is absolutely amazing. So
yeah.
that's pretty cool. Can you explain why it's important to have this type of massage therapy done before and after? Like, can you help from like a healing perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So our lymph system is our waste removal system, and it's fun that your favorite tea is our family immunity tea. So um, that works hand in hand as well, right? What we're doing and supporting anytime we're boosting our immune system is not only supporting our white blood cells, but then also supporting how we clean up the debris in our body and how we remove it from our system so our system can function again, sort of like getting the trash can emptied every Wednesday or whenever your trash comes. Um, so that system in our body is one of the only systems that doesn't have its own pump. So like our blood, it has the heart to pump all of that blood through consistently without us asking for it. And our lymphatic system is based off of and relies on muscle movement. So our muscles tightening and moving. So from our legs, pushing that back up. And then also from our blood flow. So those two are two of the main areas and ways that our body does that naturally. The other way is by manual lymphatic movement, right? So somebody else externally or us externally pulling and tugging on our skin a little bit. And it's super light work, very similar to craniosacral. So not a surprise that that was recommended too. Um, Yet you work close to where the exits are, and then you work away from that. So it's sort of like a siphon. And if you were to siphon water through a hose or that sort of thing, you're creating a suction and then it will naturally flow a bit more. So what we were doing is priming the body, helping to clear those channels and those paths before surgery so that the anesthesia would work better, so that the blood would flow more. The anesthesia will actually get into the waste removal system a bit quicker. And then after, we're not only helping with swelling, any type of bruising that may be happening as well, but then really to detoxify the body and move that anesthesia out a bit more. In other countries, especially with plastic surgery, it's almost mandatory for, I believe, up to 2 to 3 weeks every day having manual lymphatic drainage done. They see the results, they see the benefits of it. It's absolutely incredible to see. And it's something that I love allopathic medicine. I appreciate what our medical system has done and how far it's come. It's remarkable, especially being in the OR and observing how long surgeries used to take and how short they can be now and all the advances. And I also love natural health, where it came from. And I really hold space for our population, the people who are leading a lot of these movements, to work together a bit more, because having surgery
Amen.
and all of that is so important. And then also having the ability to support ourselves in that way. And we live in an amazing place. We can choose to add that onto surgery should we know about it and learn about it, that kind of thing. But yeah, similar to you, I had a huge place in my heart for it, because I thought, oh my gosh, every surgery needs this.
Yeah.
Um,
And also I'm just thinking, the amount of people that I've known in my life to go through surgery that have had complications, including myself. Maybe those would not have happened had this was part, and again, I like you, there is a time and place for medicine, there's a time and place for surgeries, absolutely 100%. And the fact, like you said, that we have the technology to speed up some things, but we need to integrate. We need to integrate the two philosophies, because we could get such better results, I think personally. And I've seen it firsthand for myself, what the other side of things naturally can do. And so back to the lymph system, because it was a great explanation for somebody maybe who doesn't understand how that works. But for those of you listening, it's similar to, like, when I know these are like the hype things that are being talked about out there, but like lymphatic drainage, when you use like the dry brushing and these things are not fads. Like, these are true things that have been proven over time. And like Jen was saying, how you do it, and like dry brushing, for example, you want to brush to where it can get out, right? Because again, there is methods to this. So if you are someone who's interested in dry brushing, don't just get a brush and start doing it. Like, really research and find steps to do it, so that you're getting the benefits. Otherwise, you're not going to get the benefits, and it could also create something different. So as far as drainage goes, like lymphatic drainage, I know this is not my forte, but I know, like, it's here, like in your clavicle, and like going out towards your lymph, under your arms. What are some other areas where it kind of are like your exit points?
yeah. Our main exit point is in the left side of our body.
Left
So
side. Okay.
into our heart. So
Okay.
everything will go through the heart and then dissipate into where it needs to go and drain out. Main areas would be our inguinal lymph nodes, which are in between that are in our groin. So
Okay.
if you're working from your feet, you want to go from your feet towards your groin, especially if you're dry brush in that direction up. And then same thing if you're even not dry brushing, but moving your
Moving.
hand over your arm. And lymph work is so interesting. It's so light too. Like you tug the tiniest bit on your arm and then you let go and release. And you tug towards your axillary lymph
Mm.
nodes in your armpit and you release. So if you're dry brushing, dry brush towards your axillary, and then the biggest pool, it's sort of a big pool that we have, is in our belly. So we start in the belly and then everything else goes towards that direction so that we can fill the pool back up with all of the debris. So yeah.
I love that. And again, I mean, our body is an incredible vessel. We just haven't been taught how to use it appropriately and to the fullest capacity. And so I love having these conversations, because I always walk away with good knowledge. And I know that my listeners, some of this might be your first time hearing it. Others might, be fine tuning to what they hear, but you can always take little nuggets away. And so I do think, when it comes to health and wellness, these things that seem so trivial, like light touch and moving and, creating a lymph system that is full functioning, um, it's worth the investment of time to look into it. And it isn't that crazy. You don't have to go somewhere to have it done. You can do it yourself. It's free. It's just honestly watching a few videos or learning from somebody like Jen and then doing it. So again, that could be your self-care time. It could be, your time teaching your kids. Like, I think it's so important. Start our kids young. start explaining these things to our little ones because they're like sponges. And when they're getting these habits put in place, they become lifelong habits. We're trying to now train ourselves to have new habits. And again, if we can start them young, then we can kind of move them up. And it's also, when we're talking about healing our children, it is part of that healing process. So thank you so much for sharing all that, because it's good knowledge and information. And I love listening to your journey because, again, you've learned one piece here and now you're over here, so when you got to that class about clarity, because I'm super interested in, I know what clarity is for myself, but what is clarity to you and how did you get into that? And then what do you teach when you work with people about discovering and coming up with their own clarity for their life and their health and wellness?
Yeah, so many questions.
Go
So
wherever you'd like.
g- guide me back. Should I stray off? Looping back to the choice point of
Yes,
a
path.
handful of different opportunities. When I went to the first workshop, they called it a breakfast at the time. It was a snippet of what Clarity had to offer and their modality and what Clarity meant to Clarity International. So
Okay.
we were observing how we were learning that the brain has the ability to shift and that we have choices, thousands of choices throughout the day. And what are we going to do with them? And in their language, it's a transition line. So 1,000 times a day, we're in a transition line. Which direction are we going to go? How are we going to react to this or respond to this? Are we going to be in effective thoughts or ineffective thoughts? Are we going to choose to keep our own light on? Are we going to choose to knock someone else's light out or knock our own light out? And so it's a lot around thought processes and how our biochemistry works with our thoughts. So that was super intriguing to me. And then it's also the physiology. So, what do we look like when we walk into a room? And what is our perception of someone else when we see them? Are we seeing lights on in an energized person? Or are we seeing lights off in a drained person? And I knew at that moment in time, I was more of a lights off and drained person. As much as we were doing the lymphatic work and we were working with people going through surgery, about half of our caseloads at that point too were also insurance. And it's just a whole different energy of working with someone that maybe has gone through a car accident or has chronic pain and discomfort. And that for me wasn't as invigorating as and a lights on for me as the perioperative work was,
Yeah.
getting to see someone heal and go through their healing journey. So I knew I was at a choice point. I just didn't know where I was. And I also knew that I wasn't as vital as what I once was. So I was seeing this road for work and I was thinking, doesn't really energize me. So in that moment, they also show a before and after picture of a before and a lights on interview and after a lights on interview of if you could have anything you wanted, what would it be? And I was so excited about dreaming again. It was like I had shut that off. Like I was in work mode. I was getting up, making things happen, making my days go, and then coming home quite tired and just doing it again.
Yeah.
So I went through their workshop and journeyed through that. And that was when I realized that I really do have this passion for helping women. And I have a deep curiosity to see what a tea company could do, reaching the globe and helping women in other communities. So I chose to move forward at that moment in time. So with the tea company, Birds and Bees Teas, and it was a journey of learning how to build a company and being super intentional about it. I loved the culmination of these two worlds merging for me of what it's like to start a company from intentionality, also from vitality and from light and something that's invigorating to me. And then really holding space for employees and people who come into the workplace and setting the tone for that, as well as those that we're sharing the tea with. So There's so many parts of clarity infused into Birds and Bees teas. We painted on the wall all the above the line positive words and more intentional words. We do check-ins with our team, which is pausing to see how everyone's doing and checking in with them, what's new and different today, what worked and didn't work in my own performance in the last 24 hours, what's the state of my mind, body, spirit, what am I grateful for, what is my intention. And that sounds like a lot, but you can do it pretty quickly. And it gives you, even in your family unit, like doing that with your kids or asking your kids one of those questions, takes us to a bit of a higher vibrational frequency and asks us a question from a place of kind of curiosity and what is different instead of same old, same old. So clarity to me is creating intentional choices moving forward in our life aligned with vitality, ideally, aligned with what truly energizes us. So throughout the day, paying attention and becoming more clear on, oh my gosh, I just had the best conversation with a girlfriend, or I just got off this podcast and now I feel like I have more energy than the workout energy that I receive or get, or those sort of things. So we work with people to focus on what energizes them and then leading them back to that on a regular basis.
Okay, so first of all, so good. And I wish your model would roll over to other companies, because I was thinking, even in your other two positions that you had when you were working, if the culture would have been different, if you would have received things that did light you up from a community standpoint within, would you have taken that shift? I mean, obviously, we never can go back and whatever, but I just think it's an interesting thing to ponder because, well, first of all, if you're listening right now, do you feel energized by what you're doing? I mean, that's a good question to ask yourself. If you're not feeling energized, if you're feeling more depleted on a daily basis, that is a sign for you to pause. It's a sign for you to pause and say, okay, if this is not lighting me up, am I stuck, or what are my choices? And I feel like we haven't been taught that. And so a lot of people stay stuck. And so the questioning, I think, is super important. Having a daily meeting with yourself and God, or whatever you believe as your higher source, like having those intentional conversations, whether it is in the workplace like yours, which is absolutely amazing, or if it is on your own, or if it's in with your family dynamic, wherever it is, you have to take that time to pause and ask the hard questions. And you might get and I think we go through the day ebbing and flowing, right? We have the highs and the lows. So we have to recognize, and I think a lot of times, again, we forget to celebrate the energy moments, right? And we just talk about the depleted moments and how whatever, and this happened, and it's like, okay, but what good things? And so I always recommend, and when I'm working with clients also, it's like you have to pick out the positives, because that's going to help you to know which direction to go. When you're just focused really solely on the low vibration of your life, you're not going to go anywhere high. I mean, it's just a fact, right? So I absolutely love that you do that with your community and your workers. And I would love to have do a video of all your workers and like what it means to them, because again, since it's not really done in a lot of workplaces. I'm not saying it's not done anywhere. I just haven't heard of it. And I don't think in the corporate world, they make time for that. And so again, your model could be something that could, go to other companies, because when you feel supported, when you feel heard, when you feel seen, you're going to feel more energized and you're going to work better. You're going to be a better productive worker and citizen and community partner. And again, I just think it's way overlooked, because we live in a hustle culture of we need more, 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 but it's really counterintuitive, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I'm watching the ripple effect right now in a couple organizations, and it is beautiful to help people figure out how to focus on themselves more. Where I was trained to take care of other people, to
Mm-hmm.
influence, to be there for everyone else, as every great mom on the planet does for their children,
Yep.
and all the moms who are fully depleted. And yeah, when we stop the blame game, no matter what it is or where it is, and we refocus on how did I show up, what worked and what didn't work, how did that make me feel, that
Mhm.
interaction or what happened, but not you did this, you did that. It is I am this, I felt this is how I'm moving forward. And when we have that check-in of 5 minutes or less than that, especially for ourselves, we figure out what's going on. Oh my gosh, I haven't eaten. I haven't had enough water today. Like some of the basics, right? Uh,
Right, yeah.
Gosh, I have a headache. I wonder why I have a headache. Well, I haven't eaten in a little while. And then when we get to do that as a team, you can, I personally, not only in myself, but also in the observation of others, notice how you can down regulate like any kind of charge or surge you might have for somebody, because they may say that their mom just died, or I mean, who knows, right? But
Yeah.
it could be the quickest information that puts things in perspective so we don't trample over someone
Mhm.
else or have.
Because they trigger you because whatever they say, because we never know what somebody else is going through. And I know that's like a cliche thing, but it really is reversing the responsibility on like, why am I triggered by that? Right? Like, what is it that person said something? So obviously they're having a day, right? Whatever that might be. And maybe you ask about it, but instead of doing that, we're like, they just did this. And now I'm like, hyped up. And so again, I think these are just things we've never been taught. And this is what needs to be taught in schools.
True.
It can be taught in families, of course. Everything starts in the home, but it's really hard when you think about parenting, right? Or being a parent and parenting your children. It's like you have 5 years, 4 years with them before they go off and somebody else is pouring into them. And it's great because they learn different things, but they're also not learning some things and they're learning other things. And I have two older kids, and I was just telling my husband the other day, they're 21 and 18, but I was like, it's really more difficult now because they are growing up and they are listening to other people, right? And they're being influenced by other teachers, by other organizations, by other leaders, things like that. And so for me as a mom, you want to give them the autonomy to learn these things and to whatever, but sometimes I'm like, oh, like what? Like that is not. So yes, you can have the conversation of like, those are not our morals and values and things, but again, it becomes really tricky because they're pulling away, becoming their own person. But my whole thought was we need to really be intentional about who we're letting them like pour into them at an earlier age. And as you're momming, you have no clue what you're doing. Just, I mean, let's put it out there. We just try the best we can. We're trying to heal ourselves while we're momming. It's like all these things. And now the hindsight perspective, right, would have been, I would have done things a little bit differently. Although I have amazing kids and they're going to be fine, you just learn as you go. So, and I think some of the things, the very things you're talking about are some of the things that they didn't get during their 8 hours a day at school. And so even when we do the 5 minutes at dinner, like what's your high, what's your low, what's your challenge, that kind of a thing, it's great conversation, but maybe it wasn't enough in some areas. So anyways,
And
I
that's where
appreciate,
grace comes in. And I think we can meet them where they are right now as well. And paying attention to what lights them up and what energizes
yeah,
them. You've been able to observe them for their whole life, right?
yeah,
And or however long they've been with you. And you know what energizes people, what gets them excited. They speak more quickly, they laugh, they smile
yeah,
more, they more energized. This is the same thing for ourselves.
yeah,
And you made mention earlier too, when we are in those energy surges or we're having those great feelings come through, to really truly recognize them and say, wow, I'm doing it. Like this is what I've been doing my workouts for. This is what I've been eating aligned foods and nutritional things. And this is why I've been doing my self-care. And it's led to this moment where I'm feeling so good in my body. And similar things too of paying attention to when you have more energy. Do you have more energy in the morning? Are you a morning person, or do you have more energy at the end of the day? And allowing yourself, if and when you're able, to put things that you don't really enjoy during those energy periods of like, I like to unload the dishwasher in the morning. I will tell myself how grateful I am for the dishes in the morning. At the end of the day, that's the last thing that I want to do. And somebody else may absolutely love to do that at that point, or might not love to do it, but has the capacity to be more grateful for that in the moment. So when we're able to really plan our days around our energy and pay attention to what's happening to us in our cycles, then
Yeah.
our brain and body can work together a lot.
Yeah. And you're making such a great point, because the the intention that we have neglected to put on ourselves because we're doing X, Y, and Z for all these other people is what has led a lot of us to that low energy, right? Because we don't take the time to be intentional. But also, I want to remind people that we've created these habits. Most of us are in our 40s, 50s. We've created these ways for the last 20, 30 years. So we can't expect the shift to be overnight. So you're not going to wake up one day and say, I have energy around this, and that's the end all be all. Like, you're going to have to put practice into it. You're going to have to put momentum behind things, and you're going to have to really look for the little nuggets, those 1%, right? That are going to help you to then, oh, I really liked that. So I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow, and I'm going to see how I feel. And you might not feel lit up on the first and second day the way you're going to feel lit up on day 30. And so that's the whole thing about creating habits. It's to see how you progress over time. And why, when you eat something really healthy and nourishing, you do feel more energized. And when you eat more processed and ultra processed yucky food, maybe you feel less energy and you want to sit on the couch and keep eating another bag of something. I think the awareness, it's really forming an awareness about yourself. That to me, for me, has allowed me to see my clarity, where I feel lit up in those things. So how would you define clarity?
Hmm. I like to say that I have so many thoughts going through my mind. I would say that the 1% in the ounce of action is what is going to create clarity in your life. So I believe that clarity comes through action, and ideally through aligned, energized action. So when we figure out what it is that lights us up, what it is that energizes us, we can truly become more clear on where we're headed and what we're doing. When we're in an eddy, in a swirl, and our negative feedback loop is operating and our cortisol is running the show, the executive function in our brain shuts off. So we can't make clear choices. We can't get ourselves in the alignment that we're really looking for. So asking for help and support from your near field and your community too, first and foremost, if you don't feel like you can move yourself
One of the
back
things
on the train.
that keeps popping in my mind is, giving yourself grace, because again, our age bracket of people were taught this systematic thought process, which is you go to school, you decide what you're going to do, you get a degree in that, you get a job, you rise to the top, and that's success. And it's so far from the truth. And I think it's finally starting to come out. And again, for my kids, I'm like, what is it that lights you up? It doesn't matter what degree you get. Yes, you might need to go back and get certifications at some point, but the degree is not going to define your future. The degree and going to college is a time for growing up. It's a time for figuring out yourself. And lots of people don't use their degree. So don't, because they freak out about it, because they're like, we have to, like, it's like, no, you're here for a reason, and you might use it tomorrow and you might use it in 10 years. You don't know. But if it's not lighting you up, you either switch majors or you continue on and you're figuring out yourself along the way. So I'm not of the belief whatever you get, you just jump into a job and that's the rest of your life. Like, you have to give yourself an opportunity to grow. And like you said, like, as a mom, you see what lights your kids up, and when you have multiple things that light you up, I think that's where it gets confusing for them, because they're like, but we've always been told what to do in the four walls of school. So again, I have like this whole view of school very differently now than I did probably 10 years ago. Did I know that back then? No. But now that I'm getting clearer with seeing my kids grow and getting clearer with myself and what is aligned with me, I'm able to now show and be an example to them. And I think as moms, that's the best thing we can do for our kids is continue to show up for ourselves, grow, find where you can find your good energy so that your kids can see you having good energy, because we model for our kids. If you're a mom, and if you're not, you model for your community, you model for your friends. And a lot of times, even though we don't think, people are noticing and people are seeing, and then they're like, huh, what's she doing? And why does she feel so good? And how do I get a little bit of that?
It's 1,000% a process. And one of the things that we do in Clarity that I believe aligns with what you're communicating is we call it a micro dose or a homeopathic dose of your own light.
Yeah.
So for our whole life, I experienced that anyway. The pressure of being told what to do, and then the shame and or
Yeah.
discomfort of not living up to someone else's expectations. It's been a total unraveling. I have a course called Untangled for that reason.
Yeah.
Um, and so in these lights on interviews and throughout coaching is truly figure out what lights you up. So I get to observe and see that by asking questions. And then we feed that back to you. And it's not telling you what we think you should do. It's literally using your words, having that fed back to you. And then our cellular being starts to believe more,
Yes.
stand up stronger. We understand more. And it feels so good when someone feeds back to us what it is that lights us up. So that could be a 1% today is figure out when you're out in the world, see what lights someone up and then feed that back to them. Say, oh my gosh, that really energizes you. Or I can see that excites you. Because if we're focusing more on that instead of all of the things that are going wrong in the world, then we're going to move to where we want to be. We're going to get the courage to step into whatever the next chapter is. And it is a winding road. We need all of these experiences in order to go up to what we're being called for.
Absolutely. What you just made me think of is the first person I coached years and years ago. I remember when we were like setting goals for that week, and I said to her, "What feels good to you?" She was like, "What do you mean? Aren't you just going to tell me what to do?" And I was like, "No." Like, we've talked about a lot of things today. So what feels good to you for you to do for the next, week or two that you feel like you're going to be able to accomplish? Because there's no reason that why am I giving you, I'm not in your life, right? Like, I'm supporting you and I'm coaching you and I have the conversations with you, but people don't recognize, they just get scared to make their own things because they've been told, for example, and this is this diet if you want to do this, and this is this. And I'm like, and I also don't do diets because they're not sustainable, because that's not our true life. And so we need to create a life and a lifestyle, but you have to help me figure that out. Like, you've got to figure it out for yourself, and I'll help you by support, so it was really interesting. But I'll just never forget, she looked at me like, well, aren't you going to tell me? And I'm like, "Mm-mm." And like you said, we need that encouragement. And I love when women, especially, start to do that. And like you said, they stand up differently. They are noticing things differently because they're feeling more empowered. I love the work that you're doing. So where can people find you? If they're curious about your teas, if they're curious about your courses, you also have a podcast. So tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find teas at birdsandbeesteas.com and on Amazon and Etsy. You can find some local boutique stores throughout the country as well. There's a handful of them doing their best out there. And coaching and clarity is through Jen Clara Roth. So that's JenClaraRoth.com.
Okay.
And Manifesting Clarity is the podcast. And that was one other piece is I truly believe that we're manifesting clarity in our life every day. So
Every day.
the company that I'm certified is Get Clarity. And I love that, but I don't know that I've gained a lot of clarity in my life, but I believe that we're truly manifesting clarity every day, every
day.
day. So yeah.
It's kind of like health and wellness. You don't just achieve health and wellness and then you're good to go. Like, it's an everyday, it's a lifestyle. Like, clarity is a daily system, right? It's a daily belief. It's a daily practice. That's what living a full, nourished life is, daily habits. So with that being said, I'll drop all of your stuff where people can find you and all of that. But when we're talking about those daily habits, what are some non-negotiables for you? Because obviously you're doing multiple things, running a business, you have a podcast, running a coaching business also. What are some non-negotiables so that you show up your best every day?
Yeah, it's completely figuring out the lifestyle, right? At any moment in time. And I am far, far, far from perfect. So movement is a non-negotiable for me. I am a whole different person when I actually create the time. And to stop the lies. So another non-negotiable is now like catching
Mm,
negative thoughts in my mind, or
love that.
stories that I don't have time, stories that I have too much on my plate, and then reframing that with a mantra. So
Love
mine
that.
is love, peace, joy, harmony. And I say it thousands of times a day. I want more love, peace, joy, and harmony in my life. So
I
when
love
I
that.
headed somewhere I don't want to be headed, pull myself back and love, peace, joy, harmony. Let's reframe that. So creating some thought changer statement for yourself and then saying it, implementing it, and using it. It's that practice.
Mm,
And then get back on the train. So if you fall off, when you fall off, get back on and figuring out what system works for you.
mhm.
I have been on a journey of figuring out what type of eating works the best for me, what
Yeah,
type of food works the best for me, all of those things. So trying something, if it doesn't work, go try the
pivot.
next thing and
Mhm.
keep going. Whatever it is, keep going because there are rhythms and habits that all of a sudden you figure out, oh my gosh, I feel so much better when I actually do that. You're going
Yeah,
to do it more. So just like you said in your coaching, when you find out what it is that you want to do a bit more, then we're
yeah.
likely to get so much more done.
Yeah. And the thing when you said fall off the wagon, I phrase it as dips because, you know, life is ups and downs, right? There are a bunch of dips, but the dips actually are there on purpose to challenge our thoughts and also to show us what's possible. And I think that we have to, like you said, reframe the way we look at those things and how we're going to handle them differently. Because if we do the same thing, you're going to get the same result. So we have to do something different in order to get a different result. I love your non-negotiables. I think, finding what works for you is the most important and not believing that there's one way for everybody because that is just not truth. And I think, again, lots of mamas learn that along the way, but it's hard. It's a hard lesson. And usually you're years into life before you figure it out because of the conditioning that we come from. So, but thank you so much for coming on. I absolutely enjoyed this conversation. I've learned so much. I know you guys today can walk away with many 1% shifts and make sure you check out Jen's Instagram page and I'll throw everything in the show notes so that you guys don't have to be writing anything while you're driving. And then let's hear back from you. Let us know in the comments of this episode what you're taking away and what you're trying on and how it works for you. Because again, the more we can share what works for us, then other people can get ideas from us. And I think that's also the ripple effect of health and wellness. So until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and we'll talk next week.
Thanks, Robin.
That episode had so many great takeaways. I hope you feel inspired and more empowered to make small 1% shifts on your wellness journey this week. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. If you want to leave a review, share your thoughts, and let me know how you're going to be implementing these 1% shifts into your life. And don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with another mama who could use a little wellness love. Want to stay connected? Join me on Instagram and Facebook at Live Life Balanced with Robin. Check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com for more resources and grab yourself some freebies while you're there. Until next time, I hope you find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to come your way. See y'all next week. Love to y'all.